Southwood Landscape and Garden Center, and joining me again is Paul James, the marketing director. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for taking the time. We talk we talk a lot about soil, but a lot of times people confuse soil with potting soil. And I wanted to talk to you today about that, specifically potting soil. Can you tell me about the process that goes into your potting soil?
Well, it's a potting mix because it's actually soilless. So it contains a nice mix of ingredients. The formula was actually developed at OSU. We have tweaked it over the years, but it's a dynamite mix. Pine bark, sand, organic humus, and some chemicals. And
good chemicals.
Good chemicals, so that it does have some nutrient value, great water holding capacity. I mean, all the things that you want out of a good potting mix. You know, if you were to go dig up garden soil and put that in a pot, inside of a few days it would set up like concrete.
Right.
That's just what happens. So you want this loose, fluffy, well-drained mix that's got the nutrients as well. And it's an ideal potting mix.
And a lot of people think that they can go and dig up some topsoil and stick it in their containers and grow something, and when it doesn't work, the reason why is because it turns to basically concrete in those containers.
Absolutely. It's really the worst thing you can do. I mean, I suppose there's some logic to the thought process behind that.
If it grows in the ground, why can't we grow in a pot?
Exactly. But you're not mimicking the same conditions. It's confined in a pot. Now, we do a large bag, a small bag. We also do an azalea mix. So we tweaked that one a little bit, a little more peat moss for more water holding capacity, and a little more sulfur to acidify.
Okay.
But it too is a wonderful mix.
So all the elements that are going into it, both the nutritional elements and also the materials, can you elaborate on what materials you use and why you use those?
Well, I mean, the most important thing is, oftentimes with just a bagged fertilizer, all you're getting are macronutrients. Here we incorporate the micronutrients as well. So there's manganese, there's molybdenum, there's zinc, there's iron, there's all kinds of things in there. And so that gives you the full meal for plants instead of just the meat and potatoes.
Right, and of course the sand helps with a little bit of weight so that our pots don't fall over, but also really helps with drainage.
Exactly.
Your pine bark you mix in there?
Right, great stuff. And that too helps drain. It's that curious mix. The ideal potting mix is going to hold water well, but also drain well.
Right.
And it's taken years to develop a formula that provides you with those perfect conditions.
That's excellent. So we need to make sure that we're not putting our topsoil in our containers, but using potting mix.
Yes.
A soilless mix.
Absolutely. That's what you want.
Now, one thing people always ask if I have to refill my containers year after year.
Well, what I do is I'll remove about a third of the mix from the previous year and then top it off with fresh. And I think, that has worked well for me for a long, long time. So it's not absolutely necessary to empty the contents every year and put in new stuff. When I do empty it, everything goes into the compost.
Right.
So, nothing's wasted. It goes back into the soil, ultimately back in my vegetable garden or my ornamental gardens.
Yeah, it's a great amendment to add to your garden.
It is. Beyond just a potting mix, it's a great soil amendment. And when I'm, especially, me and conifers, okay, my favorite plant group, but they need exactly what this provides. So typically, I don't recommend that people replace too much of their native soil when they're planting, but there are some plants that really, would not survive in heavy clay. So I will amend with this mix.
And it's really all organic matter that you're adding in there.
Absolutely.
So Paul, how does it get into this bag? What is the process that it goes through?
It's magic. No, it's a pretty straightforward process. The raw ingredients go into a mixer, and Pedro and Luis have been doing it. Pedro's been at this for about 25 years.
Wow.
Everything goes in a certain order, For instance, he'll use 2 scoops of the pine bark, for instance, in each blend, but he won't put 2 scoops in right away. He'll do 1 scoop, then he'll follow with some of the sand, he'll follow with some of the organic matter, additional organic matter, then come back with more pine bark. The chemicals go in, the sand, all that stuff goes in. It's mixed for a predetermined amount of time so that we ensure that we've got really good, even distribution, particularly of the chemicals, not just the organic matter. And then comes out the hopper, and they start bagging it. They don't measure it because they've been doing it for so long. They know exactly what the fill line is.
Right.
But I guarantee you could weigh every one of those, and they'd be within a teeny tiny bit of each other, every one of them. All right, it's all mixed up, coming out of the chute. Now it's time to bag it. Why don't you try your hand at it?
Oh goodness, I don't know about this.
Oh, it's pretty straightforward. Give it a try.
They make it look simple. Yeah. Got it!
Well, it's better than I did.
Woohoo!
And there's your process.
And here we have our finished product. It
Yeah.
makes quite a bit, it looks like.
We'll get about 100 small bags out of a hopper, 65 or 70 large bags per production cycle. So, and we do this pretty often because we sell a lot of this stuff.
And there is no soil in this potting mix.
Exactly. It used to be called potting soil. It's a potting mix. There's no soil.
And it smells divine.
I love the smell of it. You know, I mean, goodness, long before I ever started working at Southwood, I purchased hundreds and hundreds of bags of this stuff because it's just such a great product.
Great, so now we just need to tie them up.
Tie them up, and then they go to retail.
Excellent.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.